Hello, friends, and welcome back to Panel Chewing's Pick of the Week, episode 85. If the introduction sounds different this week, it's because our friend Mike couldn't make it this week. He has some personal things going on. Nothing bad. He's just visiting with family, but so he tasked me with doing the introduction because Jared won't do it. so here we go. So Jared, how are you doing?
I'm good. There's no way I could fill Mike's shoes.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. Definitely. I'm gonna miss the bye-bye at the end. It's gonna be strange. So
I'll do my best.
yeah, yeah. So this week I was I know Mike has questions prepared. I had one for you because you had read The New Gods #5, and I wondered, because we've talked about a few different kind of DC comics. We talked Swamp Thing, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and introducing kind of mainline characters into the series. And I'm guessing the idea to introduce like Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman, the Trinity, is to kind of sell more books, to have that character on the cover or in the book because fans of the character will be more willing to buy it. Do you think that helps? Do you think it helps a series, and do you think it helps move one copy or think it helps sell that one issue, or do you think it helps the series overall, or neither?
That's a yes and no answer to a yes and no question. I think it helps short term. If for some immediate exposure, but if it's overdone, I think it hurts the book. If the book can't stand on its own merits, then continually introducing well-known popular characters can only eventually bring the book down as far as a story vehicle on its own merits goes. I think yeah, it's tough because the thing is, if it doesn't get that exposure to that popular character, it might just stay in obscurity the whole time, and that wouldn't be good for the book either. Unless somebody sees it or recognizes it, or unless it gets recognized for some other reason other than the appearance of a popular character. But that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. When you throw a popular character in there, it at least gets some immediate recognition for that popular character to be there. And then hopefully they can dispense with the guest spots and move on with us, to capture people with the power of the story, if it's good, that's going on at the time, and move on and keep the audience, which I think is what a lot of books would love to do if they have, if it's a book that has the ability to bring in these powerhouse guest stars. I think a lot of them would love to have that ability to move on from that and keep at least some of its audience and to flourish as its own thing. So.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those kind of, you have to do it, because if you don't, and I think back to Kneel Before Zod, a book that we read last year, it got canceled I think after 5 or 6 issues, and it didn't have any mainline characters in it. Towards the end, I think it introduced Sinestro, so it wasn't like the Trinity or anything. It was just kind of a villain from the Green Lantern universe. But so I wonder if that's kind of, you have to do it just to kind of get people to check out a book if you want to, kind of, attract readers that haven't necessarily been on board yet. So I guess there's really no way of getting around. I'm assuming there's no way of getting around it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. But
yeah, I mean, especially when it's part of the company.
Yeah,
it's part of the company. And you could also look at the and I'm not saying I like it either. You know, I would. I'm a more. I don't know. Some of your comic book um, fans like us who are really deep into comics and really like them a lot. We know our stuff, you know, so we personally probably don't need the guest star, you know, in order to enjoy a book because we purposely seek out things that are different and compelling and new and interesting. Um, and so I wonder, because in the case of New Gods #5, in particular, the cover shows a lot more than what the inside does,
Yeah.
and um, so is the cover enough to get people in? Would people feel tricked by not getting what the cover's showing? Uh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
don't
was
know.
relieved actually it didn't have as
Yeah.
much as the cover showed myself, but
Me too. Yeah. I'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah,
yeah,
I was happy to see that it wasn't a Superman focused issue after kind of establishing itself as something different. So so
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get into our picks. We will be if you're here and if you were here and reading along for the Chris Claremont Uncanny X-Men run, we will be discussing issues 98 and 99 after our pick of the week. And next week we will be reading issue 100 because it is a giant-sized issue. So just one issue for next week. And spoiler alert, Jared is pulling a mic and it does not have a pick of the week. So the only pick will be mine. So yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah. So yeah, I guess we can go ahead and start off then on the list. And I have quite a few this week. So I'll get started on Absolute Martian Manhunter #2. This is, of course, by DC Comics. Now, the bad part about having such a great first issue is the inevitable drop-off of the second or third issue. It's going to happen. It has to happen. And that's kind of what happens here. Not that it was bad. It's hard when you have such a high bar. But the first issue, it's going to happen. I was a little bit lost with kind of the Martians' role in the world and exactly what's happening. I'm not too familiar with the white Martians and the green Martians and the different roles they play. It does give you enough to where you can kind of piece it together, but I did feel like there was a joke that was being told that I just didn't get the punchline for some of it. But if you're a fan of Martian Manhunter or kind of that whole lore, I think you'd be fine. Yes, the art is still really good. I love the colors and the shadows and the shading and the creative layouts. The presentation is spot on. Of course, I'm still on board for this. I still really like it. But again, you're gonna have a little bit of a drop off. It's gonna happen. So, but still, a really good issue. And one more before Jared has his first one, which is Arcana Royale #1. It's by Dark Horse. This is about a gambler, and there seems to be a lot of gambling comics lately. But there's a gambler who is very good at what she does, and she's not afraid to take risks and to offend people when she's doing it. She's very bombastic and confident. And she's approached by a group with a chance to gamble in a different type of game with much different types of players. And it's not so much a organized crime, it's more of a spiritual and mythological kind of characters that she's playing against now. And so she has this chance to be in this game and to win really, really big. So yeah, this is a good first issue. There's a lot of questions and mystery that are introduced in the first issue. So I'm guessing there's gonna be a lot more that we learn about her and the game and the characters and the group that she's approached by. But overall, I thought it was good. I didn't blow me away, but everything was solid, and I'll be reading the second issue.
Interesting. I was considering that one when I saw it in the catalog, but I was just like, maybe. But, cool. Next up, I have The Big Burn, number 3, from our friends at Distillery Comics. And once again, artwork by Lee Garbett and words by Joe Henderson. So in this final issue, this is the wrap up of the 3-issue series, which Distillery seems to do quite a bit with these nice short 3-issue series. And once again, it's a 50-page book you get for the price tag. It's magazine size, it's extra size, and so it's definitely what you're paying for. You're getting your money's worth out of the package. And in this issue, continues on nicely from the previous ones. Basically, the question in here does the devil get his due? And it's a fun ride. If this issue in particular, I felt had kind of a Hollywood ending. It was a little campy, and a little too nice as far as the ending goes. I was hoping for something. I don't know. Maybe it's the grim heart in all of us here that we've got old and jaded, but but I was hoping for something a little more. I don't know, just a little something that had a little bit more meaning, I guess, to it than your typical Hollywood ending that you get, where everything works out and the good guys are, riding off into the sunset, what have you. And so there was a hint that maybe a sequel in this, but it doesn't require it. So I was, like I said, if you want that big fun heist type of thing with a little sprinkling of deals with the devil in there, then it is definitely a fun book to check out and a fun series to check out. And if you like that, I think it would be perfect as a Hollywood picture type, action film. Then that's what you'll get out of this series, and so Big Burn number 3.
Yeah, not a big fan of happy ending. Oh, that sounds really bad. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. I'm not gonna go any further. That's it. I'll just say that yes, I think we share the sentiment that the in certain stories the not so the not so Hollywood ending is preferable.
Yeah.
So I'll say. I'm gonna move on before I get myself in trouble. Okay. The next one, Into the Unbeing, Part 2, number 3. This is by Dark Horse. This book keeps getting creepier and weirder, and just it keeps getting worse in a good way. It is truly a descent into madness. Our survivors are going deeper while they're reading the notes from the survivor that they found, and they are encountering many different types of creatures and dangers and strange stuff. The layouts here really stand out with the way the creative way that they use layouts to convey the terror and the horror that they're experiencing. Just really, really great, really creative, and it really adds to the tension and emptiness and the horror. So yeah, I think this is the best horror comic on the shelf right now. It is very, very dark. It is disturbing, but in a good way. Not in a over the top blood and guts and gore. More of just the way that the way that we started and now what we're getting to it's been a really good pace, and it's really effective. So okay, the next one.
Cool. Well, I get next up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Prodigy.
I skipped ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, Prodigy, Slaves of Mars, number 1. This was put out a couple of years ago, and I checked this out through the Hoopla library uh, website there, and this was written by Mark Miller and drawn by Stefano Landini, and this was about a prodigy. It was about a young man who was like a genius inventor as a kid, and he grows up. He's kind of a disappointment to his old man, and because he doesn't use his gifts in the way the old man wants to, a kind of typical story in that part of it. But then some strange things happen where his father gets captured, and he has to he has to find out what's going on, because all of a sudden his whole life is turned upside down. He's cut off from his billionaire um, funds, and he's cut off from his company. And so it was an interesting setup and premise to a to what could be an interesting story if it's done right. Um, for me, Millar's stuff has been hit or miss in the past. I'm not always a fan of all his things, but I've been a fan of some of them, and a lot of his stuff can be a little over the top, bombastic. But this one actually had quite a bit of characterization and quite a bit of setup to it that had a interesting premise, and it's like the title says, "Slaves of Mars," but we only get this little tiny peek at the possibility of interaction with Mars. So we really don't know what's going on with that yet, and it's mostly about this guy, this prodigal son, and what he's going to do with his new really crappy situation for him, anyways. so so it was interesting. I'm going to check out the next one and see how it goes. Yep, you're muted, Steve.
Sorry, unless you're a huge Millar fan, which of course there's plenty of them. I think everyone else is pretty hit or miss on Millar. It's because you mentioned he's kind of hit or miss. I think it's kind of, he's one of those that there's sometimes it really hits the mark, and sometimes it's just a little too much, or
yeah.
But yeah, it's just a reminder that Hoopla is a great place to find books for free.
Yeah.
To get advantage of it.
Just get a library card.
Yeah, that's all you need. All right, the next one for me is Medieval Spawn, #1. I know, by Image Comics, of course. And I'll admit it, I bought this one for the cover. I think the cover was just beautiful. Fortunately, well, I'd read some reviews on this one that weren't so good, or at least lukewarm, if not bad. But I decided to give it a go, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever read. It wasn't the greatest, well, I don't know if that's the greatest Spawn book I've ever read. There's some really bad ones, but anyway, it's about a medieval Spawn is leading a group of warriors to fight spawns of demons, and it kind of throws me off a little bit when these different versions of Spawn talk like a normal person that's just a guy in a suit. It just kind of feels like he should be something different. But they do encounter a small boy who is more than what he seems. We don't quite know yet, but where it's heavily implied, they hammer you over the head with it, that he is not a good person. So we'll see. I have a theory about him. I think, well, I don't want to say too much, but I do have a theory on who he is. But yeah, I'll continue with this one. I think it's decent. The artwork was nice. I thought the book was okay. It wasn't anything great, but yeah, it was enough that I'll check out another issue of it.
Hey, I say there's nothing wrong at all with buying a book for its cover, a comic book especially, because it's a visual medium. Mm-hmm. So even if the inside stinks, you still have that beautiful cover.
Yeah, really great cover.
Yeah. So next up, in honor of our weekly readings of the old classic Chris Claremont X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, I went ahead and bought the Uncanny X-Men #2 from in the most recent series of Uncanny X-Men, and because I wanted to give a kind of compare and contrast to what we're reading, what we read back then, to what's coming out now, and I found it interesting because this is written by Gail Simone, and she's a pretty popular writer nowadays. She's all over the place as far as writing different things, but I found it interesting because the first thing they give you a little recap at the beginning of the book about what's going on in the X-Men universe, and the first thing they say is after the island nation of Krakoa fell. And of course, Krakoa is the island that we first read about in Giant Size X-Men #1. So I was like, oh, okay. I know what that is at least, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes on to tell you a bunch of stuff that I have no idea who those people are or whatever. But and I didn't have a problem following along with the story. This issue particular kind of introduces 4 new young mutants that the Uncanny X-Men are trying to rescue, and that's pretty much the premise of the whole issue. The artwork was okay. It was by David Marquez, and it was in the typical Marvel style you see a lot. It's he definitely went to the Marvel handbook of drawing superheroes and stuff like that. Detailed lines and all the regular superhero poses and typical layouts of panels and stuff. And so it introduces these guys as they're in trouble, and the X-Men are going to try to help them. And there's a villain reveal at the end, and so it was okay. It just shows me that not much has changed over the past 50 years at all, which isn't good, I don't think.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay. I mean, if a kid was picking this up nowadays, I don't think they would have a problem getting into it. I think they could just get right into it and go from there, which is good. That's a good thing. But eventually, like that kid could also just pick up old comics and get the same premise out of it, and so I'm it was interesting to pick it up and just to see where they stand now, and things haven't changed much at all, and that's pretty sad, I think, actually.
It is. You makes you wonder what all this is for.
What's it all for?
All the events and all the death and resurrections and characters and crossovers, but it's a little depressing.
Yeah. But if you want more of the same, go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of I think it becomes a comfort thing where people they don't want big changes. They want to keep reading the same stories over and over in a way. Yeah. But I guess it's one of those things that, that's why I think the Ultimate Universes or the absolute universes are great, because you can do so many different things with them. You can play around instead of having to follow a certain path and stick to certain continuity and not take chances and do weird shit. So, but the next one for me is one that I think we've all enjoyed, is Minor Arcana #6. This is by Boom Studios, and this issue felt like a calm before the storm. There's some reveals and some history that has been kind of strongly hinted at, but now it's confirmed about her history and kind of her relationships before. I still love the character-focused style, and the story is consistently moving forward at a steady pace. This one's a little bit slower, but still not bad. I also I love Lemire's art style. It's unique and it's focused on facial expressions and emotion of the characters. body language. So it's a full package. I think when you have an artist and a writer doing the same job, it has a special kind of quality to it. So yeah, it's not my favorite issue of the series, but it's still very good. And yeah, of course, I'll be continuing this one.
Cool. I looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then before we get into my pick, I'll just run through the New Gods number 5 really quickly. It's another good issue. The arts, I think there's a guest artist in this issue, I believe, for some of it at least. But I really like to focus on mythology and the gods, and I really don't want the mainline DC heroes getting involved too much. I know it's kind of inevitable, but I think back to Kneel Before Zod, when you have this disconnected storyline that's its own thing, and a freedom to do things without having to shoehorn certain characters in it. But I guess it's just, part of the business. It's the cost of doing business. So, um, does Superman need to be on the cover? I don't know. We talked about that earlier, but this wasn't my favorite of this series either, but it's still good. So I'm still continuing.
Yeah,
all right.
I enjoyed it a lot. In spite of the cover, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm glad, like you mentioned, it is Superman is not in it as much as you would assume based on the cover. That's a good thing.
We'll see what happens next issue.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope it doesn't hijack. I don't hope it doesn't get hijacked, because it is on a roll and really effective in what it's doing.
Yeah.
All right, so my pick, since Jared pulled a mic this week, before we get into Uncanny X-Men, the Claremont run, my pick this week is Assorted Crisis Events number 2. This is by Image Comics. And, the first issue introduces all the readers to the world, to the different events that are happening, how it affects the people on the ground. And kind of this, it feels like a bigger type of story. It feels like a really big, I think it had to be for this kind of title to really introduce you and to help you understand what this book is about. For those who don't know, it's basically crisis, all these different kind of crises happening, except it's happening to normal people. So these like big crossover events that we read about in superhero comics are really happening, and they're affecting people on the ground, and their people appear and disappear in time. Things fall out of the sky. It's just complete madness all the time. Really weird things are always happening, and people just kind of learn to live with it. This one is a much more personal and poignant story about a man, his life, his family, death, and time. Some of the lines in this book repeat. There's some repeating themes and repeating scenes in it. And I wondered at the beginning, halfway through, I was wondering why did we keep getting this over and over again? But by the end, it made complete sense, and it was very, very effective. There's some great the use of color and highlighting certain people in a scene, and kind of having the rest of the background be another solid color. It gives like this dreamlike presentation, this dreamlike feel to it, which makes sense because there is this event with time happening during this issue that takes us back and forth, and it's like flashbacks, but it's really this crisis happening that tells a story of this person and his history and his family. But it really fit the time travel aspects, and it's going to be a staple of the series, I'm guessing, to introduce different crises and use it for different types of stories. I was a little bit thrown because it was a very, very different kind of feel to this issue than the first issue. But wow, what a heartfelt, heartbreaking story that I think anybody can relate to in some way. And it very, very, I had to take a minute when I was done with this one. It was just a great story, wonderful story. And it's one of those that really touches you. And like I said, everyone can relate to it in some way. And really, really good. I was impressed.
Cool. That one is in the mail. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I've done enough talking. I think I had 8 this week. So let's get into Uncanny X-Men number 98 and 99.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's these were a couple of interesting issues, I would say. I What was interesting was they come right out in issue number 98, and they say we've been together a year. And I was like, wow, that was fast. Usually with many, especially modern day comics, they're so compressed that the story over 6 issues takes place right away, and they'll even go on to do a sequel series, and it's like the next day or the next week. It like time doesn't pass that quickly most of the time in comics. So they mentioned they've been together a year, which really leaves a lot up to conjecture and speculation about how they've gotten along, how they've trained together, and all that stuff. So I found that kind of interesting that they did that.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit jarring, but I guess
Yeah,
they're sure to mention it to give us a sense of they're more familiar with each other. They've been training together. They're more experienced. But it did feel like a year is a long time.
yeah, it is. Yeah, and the oh, and on the second panel on page 3, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby make a special guest appearance.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny.
that's cool.
Yeah, and they mentioned 1969, like they're throwing in the year in there and stuff, and um, it was it's kind of interesting. They had a crossover character from the Hulk,
Hmm.
this guy named Peter Corbeau,
I didn't realize
and
that.
yeah, he was in the editor's notes on there.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, and he's the one driving the boat there that got blown up or whatever happened to it.
One thing that stood out to me in this one, in these couple issues, is when they're celebrating Christmas and they're at the mall and they're kind of all together. They seem like normal people, just kind of going about their lives, and I think that's the contrast between Marvel and DC. Is that Marvel heroes are more kind of grounded and normal people with these great abilities, where with DC they feel more like gods, like they're bigger than life. They are like Wonder Woman or Superman or Batman. They feel like these mythological creatures instead of just like normal people you'd see who you would never know is Cyclops.
Yeah, yeah, that was part of Stan Lee's charm that he brought to the Marvel universe, was making these characters be everyday Joes or everyday Peter Parkers or what have you, and taking away the mythology
Mm-hmm.
that DC had created with their characters, and yeah, so it was pretty neat. You had Professor X looking into star systems, which so we get that another hint that he's having all these visions and dreams about another place. So it's just another glimpse into what may be coming soon. Um, and then what's the Sentinels
Mm-hmm.
capture Wolverine, and who else did they capture?
Jean, right?
Jean Grey, yeah, and Banshee, right?
Right.
Um, and it was interesting because we get another little hint that there's something a little different about Wolverine, because he says, he's like, I'm getting mutant readings off these
Oh
these
yeah.
people, right? But he goes, but this guy's readings, Wolverine, is nothing like the others. And I'm like, what does that mean?
I thought it was another really big reveal on this one because at the time, I think most people assumed that his claws were attached to his costume, not attached to his body.
Yeah,
I was at the time, looking back, that's a pretty big reveal for the
yeah,
character.
yeah. Now that you think about it, you're right. Yeah, and yeah, they were all surprised. Um, Even like, well, Banshee, yeah, he was the one that said it, right? They've been together over a year, and they still didn't know that about this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You figure they would have known it by now, but
Yeah, that's funny. So and it also gets revealed that they're not on Earth; they're in the floating, the space station there, and so we get the next issue, and you get all these news items and this introduction to Black Tom.
Hmm.
I forget who that guy was.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Black Tom. Funny names though.
Yeah.
I really, speaking of villains, I really like the Sentinels. I think they're a great villain. They just look neat. I don't know. I've always been a fan of them.
Yeah, and we got quite a bit of use of the Sentinel trope in these two issues here, because but didn't you find it kind of funny that they have all these abilities, these Sentinels? It's supposed to be like better now because they can adapt to the mutant powers better, and then and when they destroy the spaceship that's going up to the space station, they're able to just project these oxygen bubbles around the
Yeah.
around the X-Men.
So it was kind of silly, yeah.
Right? But then when they have the fight later on the thing, they just get all torn apart, and like the X-Men destroy them like
Kick
quite
up their
easily
heads.
compared to like earlier,
Yeah, it was like no big deal later.
Yeah.
Kicking off heads. I think what really strikes me with these books we've been reading is how little is left to interpretation. It's all very straightforward. This is what he's thinking. This is what she's thinking. This is what's happening. It's very laid out in front of you, and I think I wonder if that was because they were trying to target a younger audience, or was that because they were trying to make it easier to read and to understand, or both?
I think
Or just
I would
style?
kind of look at it like they had to do that because of how much they packed in there story wise,
Mm,
because they just go from one thing to the next. There's no analyzing the story at all. There's no thinking about the story. It just keeps going and keeps going. So you're getting told this story, and like you said, there's no room for introspection on it. It's just boom, boom, boom. This is it,
yeah.
Uh, but there's interesting, touching moments. Like you said, there's reveals. There's always action. You had that spot where Storm questions being an X-Man, and she's out and using the ability to use the cosmic winds and
Yeah. Cosmic winds.
yeah.
And Scott had some anger issues. I think he's pretty hot-headed.
Yes, he went a little berserk, didn't he?
Yeah. I kind of forgot how much of a dick he was. Or is. I guess he still is, but yeah, I kind of forgot how far he goes.
Yeah, yeah, but he's supposed to be the team leader,
Mm.
So that's a problem, I guess, that he's being such a dink.
Yeah. Yeah. These two issues felt a lot. I think they were a lot of setup for the 100th issue, kind of a setup to build up to this battle that we're about to get.
Yeah, I think so. And the well, the whole ending of it with the imposters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's up with that. I don't
I was a
remember.
little lost. Yeah.
I don't know how this guy Trask was able to make these imposters, or talk them over to his side, or what's going on with that. I didn't quite get that part of it.
Yeah, me either.
So
I'm assuming they're going to explain in the next issue, but
yeah,
yeah, I was a little bit lost.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Um, overall this run so far it's been fun, but it's not the X-Men that drew me into comics
Yeah.
yet. It's not
Yeah.
it's not there yet. And I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly what that point is, because
Be Dark Phoenix.
not yet. I was a little later. I was a little later than that, but I did go back and enjoyed Dark Phoenix a lot. You know, um, so I wasn't disappointed. I got into X-Men. I forget what it was. When they were in the Outback or something like that. But I got into them then. But I went back and read the older ones, and I was enjoyed them quite a bit.
Hmm.
But this point, I don't think these would have been the one that did it. I like them now. They're pretty cool. They're fun. But I'm waiting for that. Aha! This is the moment where I was like, yeah, there's something cool going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. I thought it was good and fun, but it just doesn't have the not there yet, like you said.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
We'll see. We'll get there.
Yeah. We'll get there. Cool. Anything else you could think of for X-Men or any other book this week?
Yeah, so that was 98 and 99.
Yeah.
Hopefully folks are following along.
Yeah, if you want to follow along, this is available on Hoopla or on Libby. So it's free to do. If you'd like to join us, just need a library card and read along with us and interact with us. There's a link down below to send us a message directly, or you can always join our forum at patreon.com and tell us all about how you enjoyed it or not enjoyed it, or what you think about the dialogue. Some of the dialogue's a little funny. Like, wait a minute there, fella. It's just kind of neat.
It is funny.
But, yeah. But until next time, Jared, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fancy Thinker YouTube channel. You can find me on Speculative Speculation Podcast and some other fine podcast on Page Chewing and the forums there.
Yeah. Yeah, come on over to Page Chewing. Check out our written articles. Lots of really good articles being written now that it's lots of people who know what they're doing now, not just me. Trying to do something that anyway. So come by, check out the articles, check out our forums, say hello, and hope to hear from you. So until next time, hope you find your pick of the week, and we will talk to everyone very soon.
Bye-bye.